Today on the Nerdy Gritty, how should Disney deal with their controversial film, Song of the South?
Hey guys, welcome back to the Nerdy Gritty, where we delve deep into the details of pop culture. I'm Dez.
And I'm Fox. Dez, tomorrow a game that we are both very excited about drops.
Yeah.
It's a game called Death Stranding.
Barbie Horse Adventures. Oh.
Wait, Barbie Horse Adventure is coming out tomorrow? They're remaking it?
No, I have no idea.
I'm going to be honest. We had whatever it was called, Barbie Horse Adventure type game that my sister had on PC when I was younger. I played a lot of it.
Did you really?
Yeah, it was fun. It's fun. No problem. Same with
I like the Penny Arcade comic where he puts in like the code for the horse wrong, and it's like, look what you've done. this mangled, boneless corpse.
Anyway, Death Stranding is coming out tomorrow. Highly anticipated. And as
Kojima production.
A lot of people know, yes, it's made by somebody named Hideo Kojima. So he is mostly known for making the Metal Gear Solid series,
right?
Which I believe the series is, even if you haven't played it, you would know that it's very good. It's beloved, very, very good games. It gets weird. And the third big thing that people would think about the Metal Gear Solid series would be
Solid Snake.
Okay, sure. Yeah, main characters. I'm going for cutscenes.
Oh, all of the cutscenes.
It's cutscene-tastic.
Yes.
And so
I think the Metal Gear Solid 2.
Stop.
Oh, okay.
We're getting into this.
Okay.
In anticipation of this new Hideo Kojima game, to kind of whet our palate for what we might be getting into, we're gonna have some fun. We're gonna play with some numbers here and see just exactly how self-indulgent Hideo Kojima got. So what we're gonna do first is main 5 games. There are some spin-offs, there's remakes, whatever. Main 5 games, the original versions. I'm going to give you the average time it takes to beat, which is according to howlongtobeat.com.
Got it.
Which is users input their own stats, and then it takes an average.
Averages it out, yeah.
Right. So Metal Gear Solid 1 came out in 1998, I think. Really great game.
PlayStation 1, I believe.
PlayStation 1, yeah. Average time to beat, 11 hours, 23 minutes. Of that time, how long out of that total time, because that includes cutscenes.
Right.
How long do you think the cutscenes took total?
Of 11 hours and 23 minutes.
Yes.
An hour and a half. 90 minutes.
90 minutes?
Yeah.
3 hours and 15 minutes.
What?
28.55% of the original Metal Gear Solid
crap.
was cutscene. And cutscene here is defined as when your agency is taken away. You do not have anything. So there are some times when it's just like button mashing and like a torture sequence. You're still doing something, even though it's not really like, it's different than normal gameplay. So yeah, 28.55%. The entire series, let's go with the whole thing, average time to beat, 105 hours and 57 minutes. If you're going to play through all 5 of the games. That's 6,357 minutes.
38 hours.
Length of cutscenes, 27 hours.
27 hours.
Yeah. Now, I mean, you could have just added, if you remembered them. But so percentage, if you started right now and started playing through the whole main series, you would be spending 26.35% of your time watching it happen. Here's some fun things we're gonna do though with that time.
Oh my goodness!
With the amount of time, just the cutscenes specifically. Cutscenes, remember, 27 hours, 55 minutes. Here are some things.
Okay, that take a shot every time a cutscene goes more than 5 minutes,
and we die before we get halfway through Metal Gear Solid 1. All right. Elliot Kipchoge, fastest marathon runner of all time.
Oh, okay.
1 hour, 59 minutes, and 40 seconds. Man ran 26.2 miles in less than 2 hours.
I literally just thought I looked that up, and it said 2 hours and 4 minutes.
There are two. That is the fastest. There is the official record or whatever that has to, if it has to be open competition, so anybody can sign up.
That makes sense.
This one is like an invite,
just
I think.
By himself.
But he still did it. No.
Okay.
This was an actual race.
Oh, okay.
It just was not the specific race that this specific record that you. But it is on video. He has done it. Hour 59. Hour 59, 40. Yes. He's the first one to ever break 2 hours.
That's insane.
Yes. Which means that he could run. I mean, obviously, if he kept his pace.
No, he could not.
He could not. He could not. But we're saying if that could happen, he could run 14 marathons before you finish watching just the cutscenes of Metal Gear Solid. That would be 366.8 miles. That's all to say, if you're watching it, which you should, bring a blanket and some popcorn and sit, get ready. We're going to be, I'm guessing the first whole episode will be watching.
Oh my goodness.
I'm really excited though, because I love this. I love how self-indulgent it gets and how ridiculous it gets.
Of all things, I felt like that about Okami. I never played Okami, but I just watched it. But I felt like it took so many breaks from itself, like so much text, so many cutscenes.
Okami would have been better if it had voice acting, or at least didn't have the actual the noise that they gave to the characters, where it was like the classic. It's just so annoying. That game is nearly perfect. To me, that's like the flaw of the game.
Right.
Yeah, and then there's a lot of cutscenes, and it repeats itself a lot.
I watched you play it for as long as you did, and then I
beat it.
Oh, did you?
Yeah.
Then I didn't watch it. Maybe I just missed
I might have taken a break at some point, but
maybe that's what it was.
Yeah.
But I started watching Dan Floyd play it over at New Frame Plus,
it's still a great
or
game.
Playframe, and yeah, it's really really good. But the amount of pausing in that game,
yes,
but it's still nothing compared to Metal Gear Solid.
Right.
Nothing compared to Metal Gear Solid.
So thank you for coming to my. I felt like Brian David Gilbert going through like calculating all these things. I feel like there could be an unraveled episode.
Yeah. You're unraveled.
But it was really fun because I learned a lot about the Metal Gear Solid series and Hideo Kojima. Thank you for your great games. Let's move on though. Hey Des, what have you been up to this week?
I last night beat Bloodborne.
Nice.
Finally.
This is your second or third time, or?
It's my second time through the basic game.
Okay.
Third, I beat the new game plus at one point.
Oh, gotcha.
And so,
all right. So this being that you've beaten it before, give us your thoughts on the game.
It's a very very good game.
Ooh,
Obviously,
you heard it here first, folks.
It's so
hot
good.
take incoming. Bloodborne is good.
It honestly makes me want to play Code Vein. So I think that might be my next playthrough is
That'd
Code
be
Vein.
great.
What about you, man?
I have played a good solid chunk of Borderlands 3. I would say I'm halfway through the main story. I've been taking it a little slow, just playing when I have time. And it's really fun. Like I've really enjoyed it. It's not really a significant jump from 2. It's not the jump that 1 to 2 was.
Right. I have 2 TV related things. One, we are both like throat cleary.
We are.
Sorry.
We are.
Okay, wait. Okay, ready? Go for it. It went real quiet there for a second because I turned our volume all the way down.
Right.
And then we cleared our throats.
You're going to hear me. I'm going to whatever.
So, I finished Raising Dion, season 1, and
he's been raised.
I will say that the last 2 episodes made everything worth it.
Oh, okay. That's good.
I don't want to give any spoilers away.
Sure.
But what I will say is there's a good enough twist. They came surprising enough, but then when you think back at the rest of the season, you're like, oh my gosh, but it makes sense. It's just really well written and really well done. I also started a new show in which you watch Jim Halpert kill a man.
Oh, you're watching Jack
I
Ryan?
just started Jack Ryan.
I've heard good things about it.
It's really good, but
it's weird to see Jim.
It's even weirder because coming from just finishing The Office,
yeah,
like a few weeks ago, it begins with him in an office setting. He is in a CIA office. He's an analyst. And
the idea is that he's not an action hero, but then is forced to become one or whatever.
And he walks around bantering with people, and there are girls that he flirts with.
Does
and
he pull
I'm
a
like,
prank?
Yeah, that's Pam.
Does he pull a prank on Dwight?
Like, the whole thing, you're just like the first episode, if you are familiar with The Office, the first episode, he feels very Jim.
I saw a couple movies this weekend.
Oh, yeah.
Didn't see everything I was intending on seeing, but I saw some good stuff.
How many movies did you watch this weekend?
I saw 3. I spent about 6 hours at the theater on Saturday, and I saw one Friday
didn't
night.
Leave the theater though?
Yeah, I just went to one and then got my next ticket and went into the next one.
His wife is out of town. So.
Yeah, she was in Indiana. So, okay, so I'll go in order of what I saw. I saw Terminator Dark Fate, which was, so basically Terminator 3, Terminator Salvation, and Terminator Genesis are all pointless, don't matter anymore. Like they're meaningless because this one is the first actual sequel to Terminator 2. And so that's a problem for it because it's Terminator 1 and Terminator 2 are both nearly perfect movies.
Yes,
they are very, 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 very good sci-fi movies. And actually, the first one's more of a horror. But
what I want to be clear about when Fox and I talk about perfect movies is we say that they are movies that execute everything they're trying to do and execute it very well.
Very well.
This doesn't mean that we think that they should win Academy
Awards. It's not Citizen
Awards.
Kane.
Yeah,
exactly. But so like Ghostbusters is a perfect movie.
Yeah.
And Jurassic Park is a perfect movie.
It is. Jurassic Park is a perfect movie.
I think it did win some awards.
Yes.
But that being said, so Terminator 1 and 2. So now you're basically trying to follow up two of the best movies ever made 35 years later. And what they attempted to do was the same thing, but worse. Basically, the current war.
Oh, yeah, that's
the current war. It's a movie about Westinghouse versus Edison. Basically, they were competing over whose electrical system would become the one that basically powered the world eventually. And
AC versus DC.
Essentially, yeah, and it was fine.
Yeah.
It was fine. And then the last one, The Lighthouse.
Oh, yeah.
Oh, man.
Was it good?
This was an experience. It was...
I noticed you're not saying it was good.
It was excellent.
Okay.
It was incredible. It should be one of the best picture nominees. I still can't say if it's best. Like, to make one movie the best movie is usually a bad idea because every movie... Yeah. But it could easily be in the top, 10. This was a movie about two lighthouse keepers essentially doing their job, but also trying to not go crazy.
And that's Willem Dafoe.
Willem Dafoe and Robert Pattinson.
Yeah.
Willem Dafoe was amazing as like I'm the salty sea dog, but he's like literally talking like that. It's really hilarious, but also makes sense. It's presented in a style where if it was not in this, it's a black and white movie. The framing is like 3x4. Like it feels like a higher quality looking old timey like movie that you might see on the picture show, that kind of thing.
Yeah. I went back to my Dresden books and I've been casting in my head. So
okay.
So ready, here it is. Here is the Dresden Files TV show.
Obviously
casting director
Jim is Harry.
Yeah, casting director Des. Jim no, not I was about to say Jim Caviezel because you said
Jim Caviezel. Yep, John Krasinski.
John Krasinski is Harry Dresden.
Okay.
Lieutenant Karen Murphy.
Yeah.
Is Scarlett Johansson.
She's in everything, so sure.
Bob the Skull is voiced by how am I spacing on his name? Dang it, Simpsons.
Hank Azaria.
Hank Azaria. Yes,
okay.
Yes, voiced by Hank Azaria. And makes up a pretty cool.
I definitely voice. Imagine like an old timey New York, see, like a gangster kind of thing.
Really,
that's what I picture when I think of Bob.
To me, he's always an uppity British accent.
Oh, really?
That's supposed to be like the comedy is that it's juxtaposed with his really gross,
super
nature.
Crass behavior. Yeah.
Let's
get down to the old nerdy gritty.
Let's do that.
Hello all, we're just going to take a quick break here before we get down to the nerdy gritty and just talk to you about our Patreon. Now, if you're hearing this, that means you're listening to what we call the short version of the podcast, and just want to point out that after this a little ad break we're having here, the actual nerdy gritty discussion, that is not edited. But as you probably have heard, the before part, the intro where we just talk about what we've been up to, that is. If you'd like to hear the extended version, what we call the director's cut, head on over to our Patreon. That's patreon.com/dezandfox. If you become a tier 2 or tier 3 patron, then you gain access to the director's cut every week, as well as all of the rest of the content we put on Patreon. That's bonus episodes, early episodes, demos that we play. A whole lot of stuff gets put up there. In fact, if you go to tier 3, you can put some input in on what we play. But if you can't get in on that, if you can just support us by listening and sharing and commenting on whatever platform you're listening, then we really appreciate that as well. Thank you so much for listening, guys, and we will...
This is over a minute, you amateur.
I have failed, and I'm so sorry. Please don't hurt me.
So recently, there was an announcement, I guess, less of an announcement, more of just the news picked it up, that Song of the South, the classic Disney film, no, let's not say classic.
It is a classic. It is...
Depends on how you define classic.
Okay, the historical...
Yeah, the controversial Disney film.
That's much more accurate.
Song of the South will not be on Disney+.
Yes.
If you don't know the film, it is meant to be like it's in the time era of slavery.
Yes.
And the main character, it's never said that he's a slave or anything like that, but it's kind of strongly implied. At least I've never seen it. This is what I've understood.
So essentially what it is, the problem with the movie that people have with the movie is that it essentially depicts slavery as far less egregious.
Right.
As if slaves were just employees, essentially. Right. And it basically whitewashes history in a way that makes it seem like, oh, slaves just had a good...
That's just what they were doing.
Good goofy time, and and it has, what's his name? Not Uncle Remus. Yeah, Uncle Remus.
Yeah, Uncle Remus.
Like telling these stories about, because he's an ex-slave at this point. That's what it is.
Is that what it is?
And yes, if I remember correctly. And he's talking about... I have not seen it for specifically the reason to not support
I don't
the
want
movie.
To see it.
But yeah, it's about him telling stories about when he was a slave, and essentially it just depicts slavery in a more comedic nature than it actually was. So obviously that makes it very controversial.
Right. People
are not a fan. The story that's and this is a story from The Takeaway, a radio show and podcast that essentially what the issue right now is, people are concerned that Disney is acknowledging that people find this offensive and they're not putting on their Disney Plus, but they continue to profit off of things from this movie through things like the song Zip-a-Dee-Doo-Dah, which is regularly featured on like musical compilations and whatnot. It's a movie from Song of the South.
Mm-hmm.
And it's also the story of the ride Splash Mountain, found at Disney parks, is taken from this movie also, with Brer Rabbit and Brer Bear and whatever the other ones are. You are the Disneyland person between the two of us. I've been like twice. You've been 1,000 billion times.
I've honestly probably been 200 times.
Yeah. a lot of time. You've spent a significant amount of time at Disneyland. So that's where I want to start here. Is the question is, how should Disney deal with this movie? Because right now people are not happy with how they are dealing with it, with how they are profiting off it, but also trying to say, we get it, we're not putting it on Disney Plus. So as the Disney fan between us, what do you think?
I think it's kind of ridiculous, because if you go on the ride, I mean, you're talking to me about the Disney fan, I'm going to take you through this ride right now.
Sure, please.
If you go through the ride, it essentially takes you through the short stories of the movie. It does everything. It references the movie in every single way possible, other than the character Uncle Remus is entirely removed.
I've been on that
it.
ride. I had no idea the first time I went on it. Yeah, it was just fun cartoon characters.
And so you are in line, and there are quotes of Uncle Remus on there.
Oh,
but it doesn't. But
it's not
Remus.
attributed to Uncle Remus.
It's just lines that he stated in the movie. It's like lines from the story and things that were said. And there are voices doing quotes from the movie, but it's voiceover of entirely different person.
Different voice actor.
And then as you're going through the line, you finally get to the ride itself, and the ride goes through the short stories. All of the short stories has the characters Brer Fox, Brer Bear, Brer Rabbit, everything there. This is this movie.
Yeah.
But they're literally just saying, we don't want to admit that we had a former slave seeing how good life is.
Yeah.
Like, all it is them sitting there and saying, here are the things that you like, here's the thing that's bad. We're just going to try and separate these two and hope that you don't think about it too hard. And I think that is the absolute wrong response. It really is showing that they are more concerned about the financial benefits than the cultural controversy around it, because Disney has shown more than once that there is no problem from changing a ride. When they went Tower of Terror and switched it over to the Guardians of the Galaxy, they did exactly that. They said, here's an IP that is not flying. The Hollywood Hotel is an IP that is not making us a bunch of money. So let's put the Guardians of the Galaxy in here, and let's make a bunch of money off the
People like
IP.
that.
Yeah, so we can change the ride. That's not a problem at all. What they're essentially saying, basically admitting, is this is an IP that's still making us money, but it's also kind of controversial. So we're going to try and, it's like trying to watch the movie, but then there's like a redacted bar over Uncle Remus the entire time.
Yeah.
And
Like, don't look at this. Look at the other part of it.
Exactly. And so the whole thing, I mean, there's an actual book, one of the short stories, that's called Brer Fox and the Tar Baby.
Yep.
Like, it is
made
rough.
from a very different era. That doesn't excuse it, but it's made from a very different era when this was not something they thought about.
Right.
And we have obviously entered into a different era of time. Rightfully so, we now think that this is not the best way.
Honestly, if Disney came out and said, hey, this is pretty controversial and rough, we understand that. Like you said, it came from a time when it was normalized, but we as a company have evolved long since then.
Yeah.
And basically anybody who worked on that either aren't alive anymore or don't work here anymore. Maybe 2 or 3 of them, but for the most part, yeah. But for the most part, that's a thing of the past.
Yeah.
And so we're gonna move on from that, just so you guys know. And so you know what we're doing? We're taking this giant mountain and we're making it the North Mountain from Frozen. And here's your Frozen splash ride.
Oh, yeah.
Because you know what's an IP that makes all of the money?
All of the money.
Frozen.
And what has a sequel coming out very soon?
Frozen. But
yeah, that'd be an easy one to switch to.
Yeah, I think so.
I didn't even think about that.
They'd have to make it an icy mountain rather than a rocky mountain.
They could make it happen.
But yeah,
They're Disney.
Or they could choose any one of their numerous IP and swap it over
just call it Ice Mountain now.
Yeah.
Like, you have your mountain rides, you have Big Thunder Mountain Railroad, you have your Space Mountain. This one's Ice Mountain.
I wonder if they're sitting on that for the Matterhorn at some point, though.
I forgot about the Matterhorn.
Yeah.
Yeah, okay. Whatever. So you think that they should just absolutely change Splash Mountain?
Easy. Moana. Make it a Moana
Oh,
thing.
boom. There we go. What's the volcano?
Yeah, or
the island name or what?
The island, so it could be Tefiti or Teka. Tefiti is the good one, Teka is the bad.
Island Mountain.
Yeah. Or whatever.
Whatever, if you need to keep it a mountain
the
name.
Montanui Madness.
See, that would, and it would also kind of keep the more it wasn't a tropical thing, but the more like sunny
absolutely.
Atmosphere. Yeah, dang. Man, that's so simple. So you say they should absolutely change the thing.
And I don't need, not only should they change it, but it would be easy to do so.
It would be easy and very good for them to do so.
Yeah. And I don't understand why they don't.
Yeah. I mean, even easier is stop putting Zip-a-Dee-Doo-Dah on like your compilation. Like that's just, nobody cares about that song. Like
that. See, I don't know if that's true. And this is where I think part of the difficulty comes in, is that what Disney thrives on is generational universality.
That's true.
And it's the ability, if I talk about video games, my mom and my grandma have no idea what I'm talking about.
Right.
If my kids talk about Fortnite, I kind of know what they're talking about.
Right, you have a general understanding.
Right,
but
and my mom has no idea what they're talking about.
Yeah.
But if my daughter says she loves Cinderella, I know exactly what she's talking about.
Right.
My mom knows exactly what she's talking about. My grandma, her great-grandma, knows exactly what she's talking about. And so Disney has this ability to go over generations. And you know what? Right now, Zip-a-Dee-Doo-Dah is a part of that.
Sure, but it is still taken from this IP that is very clearly a racist IP.
And so really what Disney would need to come down to, and again, so I'm playing devil's advocate here, and I'll continue to do this for a little bit, but they're measuring money right now.
Oh, 100%.
And they're saying, what if we stand up and we look out at a crowd and we say, hey, we got a racist movie.
Yeah, this is a problem.
That's going to be rough on them.
Yes, it'll be rough on them. From it to me, this is very similar to the the statues of Southern generals from the Civil War.
Right.
Where there is not simply just a factual, here's what happened, here's what didn't happen, controversy here. It's, whatever. It's people are emotionally invested.
Right.
In the, you can have a statue of General Lee, the general of the Southern Army. How come I can't remember the name of there's the Union and the Southern Army.
The rebels.
The
blue and the
rebellious
gray.
army. How come I can't remember? Anyway, whatever. It's very similar where there's been this kind of new trend in taking down these statues or moving them to museums specifically.
Which I think is the best thing.
Well, sure. Because there are people who say that these are glorifying people who wanted to perpetuate the concept of slavery. And there are other people who say they were fighting for rights. And often it is that, my great-great-great-grandfather fought on that army and fought for our land. And there's like this emotional investment in there. So removing that is not just a historical idea. It's you're attacking my personal family history, and that's not okay. As well as some people will try to claim you are erasing history, which that's not a whole thing we get into. We could talk about that. I could talk about that for a long time. But to me, that's similar here, where it's if they were to make this announcement, hey, we're changing Splash Mountain, then grandparents who went to Disneyland when it opened in the 50s, right?
Yeah.
60s.
50s.
Who've been riding that ride for 60 years now.
Nah, the Splash Mountain opened 80.
Oh, is it not a?
Maybe even 90s.
To me, that was one that. See, that's even weirder then. That's also true with the southern statues, that most of those were built like decades and decades after the Civil War. But that's even weird. Okay, fine. People have been riding it for 40 years. Like, they have this, like, this is part of my childhood. I'm emotionally invested in this thing. Now you're taking it away from me. How dare you? To me, that's where their problem is going to come in if they try to change what's going on. Because people are not just, trying to come at it from okay, that makes sense. I see. I understand. There's two sides to this. They're saying, no, you're attacking my personal childhood.
See, this is where I think, and the statues is a good thing with this, because when people say take the statues down, put them in the trash can, forget about them, I think that's the wrong idea.
Sure, yeah.
Because if you
that is literally erasing history.
Yes, and so if you try and forget it, then you're doomed to repeat it.
Yeah,
if what Disney's doing right now is they're trying to forget it. They're trying to just erase Uncle Remus, but let everything go as normal.
Right. And
then I guarantee you at some point in the future, they're going to make a similar mistake or something's going to happen. Yep. And then in 20 years later, it's going to be taboo.
Right.
And they're going to have to all over again be like, okay, how do we slowly over the course of 40 years erase this?
Oh, dang it.
Instead of setting a precedent now and, like I said with statues, like just saying, hey, this represented something that we don't want to glorify anymore.
Move this statue
so instead
to a
of
museum.
being in a place where it's glorified, we're going to a place where we can remember it and learn about it and understand it.
Put a plaque that says, here's what this person fought for or whatever.
And so Disney does the same thing. They say, hey, you know what? We're not going to do Song of the South stuff anymore. We're not going to hide it.
Yeah.
But we're not going to promote it. We're not going to talk about, like openly do anything with it. So Song of the South is an issue. We wholeheartedly admit that. And we're going to move forward with a goal to be as racially respectful as we can. And here is our Moana ride.
Here is a very similar thing, a very similar situation. There are Warner Brothers, Looney Tunes, shorts, the cartoons from a while ago,
right,
that are also not the best.
Oh yeah.
There are cartoons where I believe Daffy Duck dresses up like a Nazi at some point.
That's Donald Duck.
Is that Donald Duck?
That's Disney.
Okay. Oh, that's Disney. Oh,
Disney did propaganda films for World War II.
Yeah.
And one
okay,
of them...
I'm mistaking that. There are Warner Brothers also has cartoons like this where they depict things that are not culturally sensitive to and are very controversial. Here's what they did. They put when they were coming out with like a compilation, like a DVD or whatever of classic cartoons, they included them in their full unedited version. But you laugh now. But what they added before it started, they added just a little disclaimer. I'll show the picture here. It's very simple. But here's what it says. It has the WB logo, and it says, the cartoons you are about to see are products of their time. They may depict some of the ethnic and racial prejudices that were commonplace in American society. These depictions were wrong then and are wrong today. While the following does not represent the Warner Brothers view of today's society, these cartoons are being presented as they were originally created because to do otherwise would be the same as claiming these prejudices never existed.
Boom.
Mic drop. Like the perfect way
to
just say, look, this is what it was. It's wrong. It's wrong then. It's wrong now. we're still showing it to you because this is part of our history.
Right.
And that's nothing but respect right there for Warner Brothers.
That's awesome. Yeah.
That's incredible. And I think the idea of changing it to Moana, genius. I mean, it's just going to make them more money because kids don't care about Brer Rabbit and Brer whatever.
No, they don't.
They care about Moana, though. It's like, hey, the parents are bringing the kids on there because they like Splash Mountain. And there's a drop at the end, I guess. That's fun. But while you're in line, Splash Mountain has a long line. I know that all their lines can get pretty long, and that is part of the attraction.
I will say, as far as lines go, that I have walked onto every single ride at Disneyland.
Sure.
Other than Splash Mountain.
Yeah.
They have always had some
Splash
sort of
Mountain is a
wait.
very popular ride, and with every attraction, though, even the line, that's where they kind of start the attraction, where they kind of start the ride. You have just pictures on the wall, or sometimes you have video that you watch. I'm thinking specifically Screaming Over California. No, not California Screaming.
Soaring
over California, where you have the video of what's his name from Seinfeld, or the voice of what's his name from. Yeah. Anyway,
it's changed, but yeah.
Yes. Oh, it has. Oh, that's sad. I like that guy. Anyway, so this is where you put that. This is where you put the history of this ride. We used to have this ride used to be called Splash Mountain, and it depicted it had scenes of these characters. And
I'm going to stop you right there. Because above Pirates of the Caribbean, there is a Disney museum.
Oh.
You can walk in, and it's just old art, old frames, old things like that. It's not very big. It's about twice the size of this little basement area you're in right now.
Oh.
It's not very big at all.
I've not been to Disneyland very often, so.
Right, I have.
Yes, you have. I'm not anywhere near as fun, but this is interesting.
And it's just a bunch of old stuff. There's an old layout of Disneyland from when it very first opened.
Okay.
The only original stuff that's there is Fantasyland stuff. Literally everything else has changed at some point. Yeah. There's, again, old frames from original movies, old character art, all kinds of things like that. And guess what? It's also about 100 yards away from Splash Mountain. And it'd be so easy to put a little section of that museum there.
The little section of the museum, I still think it would be cool to have a plaque or something. That doesn't even take up a lot of space. At the very least, say, to learn more about the history of this ride, go to the museum at this place. Because I don't even know that exists.
Yeah.
So putting something on the ride itself to just say, hey, it was wrong, and we changed it for this reason. Also, we love Moana. That kind of thing. Not just Warner Brothers has set a really good precedent here, a really good example for lots of people, lots of things, to kind of say, okay, that's a good mindset to be after here. The last thing that kind of this article, this kind of news story talks about a little bit is that there are other movies that will be included in Disney Plus that maybe not to the same extent, but are still controversial in some ways. So things like Dumbo will be included, which has a character called Jim Crow.
Right.
And he is a crow, and he is kind of a stereotypical.
He's very much.
Yes. Or even to a lesser extent, there are movies like Pocahontas,
right,
which does not have the most accurate depiction of the time when white people interacted with Native Americans,
it's crazy because from our standards from then to now, and this is kind of what I'm talking about as far as Disney setting precedents of what they're going to do about these things. Times will change, and they will have to deal with this again. When Pocahontas first came out, it was lauded as this beautiful step in racial equality, that it's no longer about these Germanic and European myths, white princesses. Now we're coming to a historical Native American woman. And we're really taking a look. Oh, and guess what? She is the hero of this.
Right.
John Smith is just kind of her helper, essentially. It was lauded, and now we look back on it and we're like, dang, we kind of whitewashed a really horrific part of history, didn't we?
Yeah. It's the same with the controversy, the recent controversy over Apu from The Simpsons, where when The Simpsons, people are find that offensive, that's the Indian stereotype. That's the stereotypical Indian that they've depicted. And their response was, when he came out, it's literally in an episode of The Simpsons, and it's Lisa talking to the audience saying, when I'm paraphrasing, but when Apu first came onto the show, it was a big victory for the Indian community. People were, lauded him, and now he's seen as a stereotypical, problem. And so, be aware of what you're making and be prepared to
deal with it.
Deal with it as you go. You cannot foresee the future.
Right.
You cannot foresee what today is going to be. What's fine today is going to be controversial in 50 years. But be prepared to change. If the future will change.
So again,
things.
even just a title card, like you just showed me
Yes.
from Warner Brothers, you play Pocahontas. The title card comes up and it says, "Today, we understand that this is, taking an important part of history and trying to paint it in a much brighter light."
Yes.
At the time, this was lauded as a victory for the Native American community.
Yeah.
Et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. But we do want to say that we are never, Disney is never trying to make light of very serious moments in history.
Yeah.
Watch that knowing these things.
There are some easy things you can do, Disney, to address the controversy while also being able to put out the products that you want to put out.
I think Disney's problem is that they are genuinely trying to exist in a magical world in which they do no wrong.
Right.
In which they don't make any mistakes, and they are always the pure, halo over their head company, when the reality of the matter is that's just not possible.
Yeah.
Absolutely not.
And that's not what people want.
But they're trying to maintain this image so heavily, and meanwhile they're standing on top of the rug that they've swept all this garbage under.
Yeah.
And we can all smell it and we can all see it, and it's all right there. Like, everybody knows the garbage is there, but they're trying to pretend like it didn't exist, and it's a smear on them for it.
And that is, they are worse because of it.
Yes.
Somebody in today's society who is willing to address their biases and mistakes is seen as a better person than somebody who tries to claim that they never had any.
This was, I'm going to get, we usually don't talk about our faith much, but I think this applies here. I remember talking about the confession of sin once amongst pastors.
Yeah.
And how when you were allotted as a pastor, there's always this mindset of that you have to be perfect. You can never talk about it. And they said, well, what if a pastor walked up to you and you asked him how it was, and he stopped and said, you know what, man, I've actually had a pretty hard day today. I had some things go wrong. It's been rough. I'd be like, well, I'd actually respect him more for being honest.
Sure,
with me.
yeah.
And like, exactly. If you can be honest with your issues, people actually respect you for that.
Right.
You being open instead of trying to paint over and pretend to be something you're not, you being open gains respect. It does.
Right.
And Disney, you're in a place to be able to do exactly that right now. To be able to say, hey, Song of the South is not going to be on Disney Plus because it depicts a situation that we do not support. It was wrong then, and it's wrong now.
Yes.
Hey, Splash Mountain is something that we can't in good conscience keep making money off of. You know what? I wouldn't even be surprised if they did something like that and then like 50 years from now re-released Zip-a-Dee-Doo-Dah in a different movie or something to that nature.
To try to change its context.
Because it's got nothing to do with...
It could still be controversial, but yes.
It's got nothing to do with the actual movie itself.
Right.
It is a solo thing. It's talking about how good the day is.
Sure.
So I could see something like that happening, and sure, whatever. You want to make money off of a good song that has nothing to do with anything. Okay, sure. But detach it from this.
Yeah.
Please detach it from this.
Yeah.
Well, guys, thank you so much for listening. Thanks for all of your thoughts and support over the year, more than a year that we've been doing this.
This is episode 99.
Oh my gosh.
We are so close to our
episode 100.
centennial.
I think we may need to pull on my
years.
brother and me. When they were approaching episode 420,
They just skipped it.
they felt so down, like afraid. What are we gonna do for episode 420? So they had episode 419 and then episode 421. I feel like we need to do something big for episode 100, and so we made it to skip episode 100.
No, we're gonna come. We're gonna make something happen.
So yeah, our next episode will be episode 100.
Let's just call episode 100 episode 420.
Yes.
The Lost Mabim Bam episode.
And it will be an hour of us just going, bro.
We'll upload it at exactly 420.
Thanks for listening, guys. Hey, let us know what you think about Song of the South. Let us know what you think about Disney's reaction to the Disney Plus situation, what they should do with Splash Mountain, and how they should be addressing all of their controversial IP. Thanks again, guys, for your support. And remember, saved games, save lives.
Bye.